Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast is The Uncertain Road to Happiness. And I've been thinking a lot about this the last couple of days since I've been to my friend's funeral. He was a lovely man, and there were many people at the funeral that spoke about his kindness, his generosity, his creativity, and at some point, his cousin came up to speak. I don't remember her name, but for the purposes of this podcast, I'm going to call her Margaret. And as Margaret spoke, she explained that after World War II, their entire family got split apart. Some of her relatives stayed in Europe, some of her relatives went to the United States, and some went to Canada. And everybody basically lost touch. But after a period of time, the parents of my friend who passed away decided to visit Europe to get back in touch with a lot of their relatives. And when Margaret's dad arrived at the house that they were visiting, they were all ready to leave to go back to London and start their journey back to the United States. So Margaret's dad, having just met my friend's parents, drove them to the train station so they can go back to London and return home. And he was so frustrated that he just met them and didn't get a chance to know them better. And as my friend's parents were getting on the train, Margaret's dad just jumped on the train, and he spent 3 hours with my friend's parents. And then when they got off in London, he got back on the train and went back home. And the 3 hours that he spent speaking to them on the way to London created a lifelong relationship. And because of what he did, because he acted from his heart, when Margaret came to the United States, there was such a close bond between my friend and her family. And they had a loving, very supportive relationship for their lifetime. And it was very meaningful. And when you think about that, how there are so many moments that we want to do something. There are so many moments that we want to jump on the train. We want to speak to someone that we see at a bar. We want to speak to someone in a park. We want to apply for a job. We want to change our lives, but we feel stuck, but we feel we have obligations. And so because we just overthinking what everything's going to mean, and yet our heart is trying to show us a different way. We don't realize, but every moment offers us authenticity, offers us something that fully aligns with us. But we're so busy thinking about what other people are going to think and what's possible and what's not that we miss that moment of alignment. And sometimes it's one little change. You could even change where you go for lunch one day and run into somebody and a whole different life will start. I've heard so many stories about moments where people meet for business, for their love life, for an opportunity, for a new friendship, for something for their child. And it's just this one little moment, one little thing you tried, one little thing you did different, one train you jumped on without thinking. And that's the point. The road to happiness is uncertain. And when we need to know everything, we're picking the past. We're sometimes picking what we don't like. We're picking less. We're picking lack. And we don't realize that if we allow ourselves to quiet down and listen to our heart and listen to our dreams and listen to our true desires, we could start making little changes in our lives. Start making changes that might feel uncomfortable, but again, they don't have to be big. And we have to allow for that flexibility. Life is not all or nothing. I know people who are like, well, I can't get that job, so I'm just going to stay where I am. I've been on the dating apps for years. I've never met anyone. I'm not going to meet anybody. It's like, again, I know I've been talking about this a lot lately, but we want the outside world to show us something in order for us to believe it's possible. But life does not work that way. We need to believe first. And our heart is already there. Our heart is always aligned with the moment. It's our mind that takes us away. It's our mind that tells us what's possible and what's not. And it's often based on the past and the fears and things that have never been tried before. And it's our job to be present and listen to our heart. And in this moment, our heart will always show us the way. And how can we do this? We start small. Sometimes I will just try a different food. Sometimes I will just walk in another direction as a declaration that I want my life to change. Sometimes I'll reach out to an old friend. I'll send an article out that I've written to a new publication, just something small with a big intention and from my heart. And I'm just jumping on the train about one thing. And you would be surprised when you start to do this exercise every day. One thing each day that's different, that's uncertain, that's unknown, it will accumulate. And you will start building a different life. That's how it happens. And yes, sometimes jumping on the train is quitting your job. But sometimes it is literally sitting on a park bench and turning to the person next to you and starting to chat. Again, I have heard incredible stories in my life about little changes people have made that have led them to amazing moments in their life. And I'm sure there are so many things in your life that you would like to change right now, and it feels so overwhelming to make those changes, but we don't have to make them all at once. The road to happiness is uncertain, and thank goodness it is uncertain, because that means there are so many possibilities. And if we allow ourselves every day to do one thing that's uncertain, one action, it's going to start building, and all of a sudden you're going to see that life is changing. And again, if you can't get there, remember the maybe practice. Remember that maybe is the hope within the unknown. Because we don't know, there's hope. And if there's hope, there's possibility. So sometimes you might need to question your fears with maybe. Maybe I can try that. Maybe there's one thing I can do differently. Or you could just look at your list with all your desires and make those little changes. Or make big changes, but either way, don't be afraid of what you don't know. What you don't know is the answer to your prayers. What you don't know is the beginning of change. What you don't know is your access to infinite possibilities of life. I promise you that if you stay on this path, changes will happen. You will get a new job. You will have a new relationship. You will fill your life up with meaning and wonderful, glorious things. But you just have to pull away from certainty, pull away from fear, and let your heart lead you in another direction. Again, you have the maybe practice, which I discuss on so many podcasts if you're afraid of the unknown. But again, little changes every day. Things you never tried before, a little uncertainty. That's what it is. It's like you're taking a little dose of uncertainty every day. I'm going to go in another direction. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to send out my resume inch by inch. I'm going to smile. I'm going to speak to someone new. You can do this. Stop thinking about what everyone tells you. Stop thinking about possible, not possible, right and wrong. Just breathe through the center of your heart. Slow down and feel the beats. And as you feel the beats, you will feel the moment. And as if you feel the moment, the path will open up. And again, one uncertain decision every day. Allowing yourself not to know and doing something different will lead you on the path to happiness. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe or Year Without Men, they're available at all major bookstores and online retailers. And if you like this podcast, you could subscribe and leave a comment.